Then we'll turn it over to, doesn't look like Nevin's in here yet, but we'll turn over to the field service pod. So probably, I know Logan, Andres, and
It's on
Callie.
me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Callie,
Nevin's
perfect.
not going to make it.
Okay. So, yeah, with the field service, kind of the brunt of it goes through the work orders and the scheduling of work orders, because field service is used so that people out in the field can be able to see the different items that they need to work on or things that they need to service, and then for dispatchers to be able to schedule out all their different field agents and be able to handle their workloads. So biggest part of it is the kind of the work order process, where that can come from an agreement where it's kind of a reoccurring, we're going to do maintenance on your heater or whatever, and then that can create a work order that can be scheduled. Or if a customer creates a support ticket or opens a new case, then that could create a work order, and then as well as a sales order. If somebody just on the sales side, or they know there's a work order that needs to be created, they can just create that from a sales order. But once you have the work order, it's mainly templatized. So this is just one of the most recent ones that I've opened, is based on your work order type and your primary incident, you can have all your products and services and service tasks be auto generated into your work order. So you're not having to rebuild that for each different type of service. So we go into, that's the work order creation. Then you have the scheduling, where a dispatcher or you can configure a routing engine that actually goes through and schedules based on the criteria you set up and people's availability. And that is this fancy schedule board where you have the filter criteria on the left, and then you have all your resources and their time slots, and then your work orders over here where you can throw those into the and schedule each of your different agents or resources. It can also be scheduling like trucks. It doesn't have to be just people. So then after that, then it moves into the dispatch stage, where it actually pops up for the field agent. They can review and accept it, or it can just be auto accepted. During the dispatch, you could kind of create like a notification to the customer saying, hey, we've scheduled this for you. And then you move into the service where the field agent's actually doing the service on the item. They can go in and open up that work order. And let's go back to that. Maybe at open. And they can actually set the quantity and the amount of what they actually ended up using, because it's just based on estimates until you actually use the item. So once that's done, then they can start to close out that work order. You can have a approval gate and review where the supervisor verifies that everything was done properly and that they have all the information, and as well as accounting can do the approval. And then once that's done, then you move into the invoicing stage, where the invoice is created based on those products that you selected as being used. And then inventory adjustments are made for those products as well. And then your work order is closed. So that's the kind of work order process of field service. I can hand it back off to Callie for her portion.
Thanks, Logan. So Logan briefly talked about the idea of agreements and how you can use them to automatically create bookings. Work orders. And then they can go through the process that he just described. So I'm going to talk through agreements a bit. Agreements are great because they can allow an organization to automatically generate these work orders, as well as the invoices for those work orders on a defined schedule. And some examples of use cases for agreements would be maybe a company has monthly inspections on a machine or in a building, and those inspections are supposed to last for 2 years. That might be a good example on when to use it. If we're setting up an agreement, we start with our service account. This is going to be the place or account related to the place that the service is going to take place. I just used the word place like 8 times in one sentence. And then the billing account is going to be either the same as the service account, or maybe in this case, Brandon is a subsidiary of JourneyTEAM. And so we'll bill JourneyTEAM whenever Brandon's service account gets this service done. Agreements have different statuses. The estimate status will not be creating work orders or invoices, and same with expired or cancel. You'll only be able to create auto-generate these bookings and invoices if we have active status. You can also configure custom substatuses. An example of this could be that you're waiting for a confirmation under our estimate status, or maybe under active, we're just generating the bookings. Maybe we're generating both booking and invoices because we've set both up. So these could be different examples of substatuses as well. Some price list information, it's required here. The reason for this is generally that agreements will often have negotiated prices that we're working off of. So maybe my company and JourneyTEAM have already set aside an agreement, like they get 80% off their maintenance because we're scheduling it ahead of time in an agreement. Can also decide if this is taxable. If it's yes, we have to select a tax code, and these are just configured in your settings. I'm using one that's already made, so. Our duration will be the start and end date of this agreement. For our example of a 2-year agreement, we might start tomorrow and end in 2024. And we'll have a 2-year agreement. This start and end date is auto-populated as you continue through the process of creating the agreement. So it can be helpful to have the correct dates here. The next thing we do after setting up our basic agreement will be moving to the booking setup. Something that's nice is there's this BPF that kind of leads you through it. Our booking setup, this is going to be the thing that decides how often our work orders get generated and auto booking them as well, so scheduling them on the schedule board. So for example, we could have a monthly inspection. And we can decide to auto-generate our work orders. And a nice thing we can do is put in a work order type, which will allow us to use some of the information off of here. And also, if it's something that we want to know how many inspections we do in a month, we can easily find that. Priority, this is the priority that is set when the, well, it's set on the work order, but it's used when scheduling the work order. We'll say this is low because it's monthly inspections. It's probably not urgent. auto-generate bookings, we're going to say yes here. This means that they are going to automatically schedule themselves on the schedule board. The duration is going to be how long the booking is going to take. We can say 30 minutes. And preferred resource, I think it's kind of weird that this is required here, but maybe our company really, really likes John Galt. And so he is our preferred resource. We also have preferred start time. Maybe no one is in our office until 9 a.m. and our technical people get there at 10 a.m. So we'd put our preferred start time at 10, but maybe our time window could start at 9 a.m. And these time windows are optional. Don't have to use them. We'll also set up our products, services, and service tasks here. This is going to be auto-populated on the work orders that get created, like Logan showed us. So this is important as the actual resource goes through and does the service for the customer. Let's say we have an inspection kit that has some single-use tests that our customer has to pay for, and we'll use one of those. This is the estimated quantity that Logan was talking about. And then once the resource is out in the field, they'll have to update and say that we actually used however many. And we can say it's $5. If we have a customer asset that we're working on, so like a piece of equipment, we could populate it here. I didn't set anything up, so we're just not. We can also set up services and service tasks. I'm going to put some service tasks on here. Maybe we just inspect a machine. And when we set up task types, we can also attach inspection templates to them if it's an inspection type. And then our resource can use this in the field as they go through this inspection and kind of report on this information. Next, if we so cared to, we could update our status here. I'm not going to. I'm going to go straight into the invoice setup and create a new one. Oh, I did forget to do something though. Hilarious. Booking recurrences. This is where you set up the actual booking that happens. It's pretty important. I forgot about it because that's what I do. Let's say we want every month on the 20th for our resource to come and inspect. And then this is every month exactly. If we wanted every other month, we could put 2. And then our range of recurrence, this is auto-populated by our agreement, the start and end dates, but we can also manipulate it and change it if we so desire. And you can also change to have no end date or end after 24 occurrences if we want exactly 24 inspections to happen. And once you set up the booking recurrence, things actually can start happening. And first I'm going to do this though. For a monthly service agreement sort of thing, we might also want monthly invoices. The invoice setup is pretty easy here. You just add whatever products you're using. And we're using the inspection kit. Say we charge $5 for it. And then same thing as with the bookings, we need to set the recurrence pattern. I'm going to do the same exact thing, except we'll do the 25th of the month so that we can get everything straightened out and close out the work order before the period in which we need to do the invoicing. And I'm actually going to change the end date of this I don't know if it won't do an invoice for like the 25th, so I'm going to set it. I should have researched that. If someone knows, feel free to tell me. At this point, we have pretty much everything set up. Once I switch this system status to active, our agreement will create booking dates on our booking setup. Oh, that's cute. Sorry. This is awesome. Our booking dates, we can go into them and manually generate our work orders if we want them to, or they'll be auto-generated since we've set it up. If we do that, we get a work order populated here. I'm gonna go to one that actually has a work order already when I was testing. And here it will just give us some information about when it books. And then we can go into the work order. And this has all the information that Logan was showing us. We have our products, services, and tasks there. And this is slightly different because it's a different agreement. I think that's all I have. Sorry, I got really frazzled once things didn't work. Oh, invoices. We'll also have invoice dates on our agreement. And this will just tell us every time that our customer is getting invoiced. For this agreement, I set it on the 20th of every month. And I couldn't find a way to generate these invoices, so I think they just automatically happen. And there's no way to manually force it, as far as I know. Did someone have a question? I heard a noise.
Yeah, I did a noise. I just digitally raised my hand. Are you able to take a question right now, or do you need to?
Sure, yeah.
Oh,
I'm open for questions.
okay. As far as like generating the bookings and that, is there any kind of location logic? Like if we're doing a monthly inspection somewhere, is there kind of routing capability
Yes.
that they've added in, or like?
We can set, I can't remember where it is now. Oh, the work location, which can be on site, or you can set a specific facility. This is the latitude and longitude. I don't know if it'll show up on the map like it does in other entities when you do this, but you can select a location. I think on site will just use the location of the account you're using.
The account
Yeah, the
address.
service account that's tied
Yeah.
to the work order.
And then location agnostic if it can happen anywhere.
Okay, but there's
It's
not
like a
any kind of
virtual.
like smart routing or anything, right? Like if you had a monthly inspection for an account on one side of the city and then another one the next hour on the other side, it's not going to know anything
I
about
don't
that, right?
think it can be set up in the agreements, but that might be
Okay.
like a resource
On-
scheduling optimization
Yeah,
sort of
on
thing.
scheduling, you can optimize it. You can just tell it to run through and show you optimizations, or tell it to actually do it, and it looks at all that stuff.
Okay. Okay.
It's called
Thank you.
RSO, resource scheduling optimization. It's actually kind of the coolest thing, I think, with field service, but it does
Thank you.
geocode all the locations for that stuff.
Does it
Tries to
work well?
minimize drive time. Sorry?
Does it work well?
Yes. Amazingly. So you can run it through like a test scenario and it'll show you what it thinks it should do. And then you can say, cool, let's implement that. And it'll reschedule all your bookings. There's a lot, those videos I gave you, Jonathan, there's a whole section on it. And you can tell it what to prioritize, like minimize travel time. It's actually really seems pretty slick.
That's nice. That's nice.
I've
Thank
never
you.
done it in practice, but I think that's like one of the big things.
Looks like we also have a question, a hand for Smitty. If you want to.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you said this, and I'm trying to remember. Can you control how soon before the work order date on the agreement that the work order actually gets generated, and at what timing the booking actually gets generated?
I know you can do the days in advance. You can do that here in the work order settings. I didn't go over that, Smitty, I don't think. So you can choose if it's 30 days in advance, 5 days in advance. It does make notes in the documentation, like if it's a weekly meeting, you might not want to schedule them 30 days in advance because they might overlap in some way. I don't exactly know how that completely plays out, but you can have the work orders happen days in advance. And then I'm not sure on if you can set exactly, actually, maybe you can set exactly the time that the bookings happen. That's kind of what this looks like to me, but I didn't find anything concrete there. Looks like you should be able to kind of manipulate that in the individual booking dates though.
Thanks.
Any other questions, or should we move on to Andres? All right, I'm giving you the floor, Andres.
All right. So I'm going to be talking about just scheduling and the types of scheduling and the people who should be in charge of scheduling. And there's 3 different types of scheduling. The first is manual, and manual scheduling means using this schedule board to select requirements and create bookings. And it works well for like to handle exceptions like emergency work or for less complicated requirements. So it's just like simple creating bookings and stuff using the board. And then there is the schedule assistant, which it works well for the same scenarios as manual, except for it's more like scheduling through a case or a customer portal, and then to schedule a subset of requirements that may be less effective for optimization or automated scheduling. And the last type is the one that Mark kind of talked about a little bit that I haven't used, but it's called like optimized or automated scheduling. And it kind of has like a map on the side that you can filter to say, oh, I want to run these bookings and like do like the fastest way throughout the city. And it kind of highlights throughout the map like where each booking is and stuff like that. And there's like overnight scheduling for a given subset of requirements and resources. And then the people who are usually in charge of scheduling, they're called like scheduling personas. And the dispatcher or scheduler is responsible for ensuring that work orders are matched with the right resource in order to create bookings in a given time slot. And this role can be performed by a variety of people, but it's usually service managers and customer service reps and traditional dispatchers. Just, I guess, a little show of what I did for them is they have this work order and they wanted me to create this button that creates a booking for them, and then it adds it to here, but it also adds it to the schedule board if I refresh. Right there. So that's just like a regular schedule board. You can see all the people that are working and what their work orders are and for how long their work orders are and for which day. Yeah, not super crazy. Yeah, that's all I had.